Assalamu alaikum, peace and blessings. So it is morning time here. Right now it's 7:09, and I just felt to share something that was on my mind in regards to prayer and our prayers that we send in regards to or for those who are living in other places, living in other countries. Turmoil has always existed. War has always existed. Death has always existed. Difficulties have always existed. It's nothing new. And for those who are believers, for those who do believe and are convinced that there is a creator, that there is a God that brought all of us into existence, and that prayer is a part of our connection, not only for ourselves, but for others. For those who have that conviction and have that awareness, when they hear that something's happening in another country, for example, we know people are being killed. Let's talk about Palestine. Let's talk about the Tigray people of Ethiopia. We can talk about what's going on in Colombia. We could talk about the Uyghur Muslims who are being slaughtered, who are being tortured, who are being raped, who are being sterilized, who can no longer communicate with their families, and so on and so forth. We may say we're going to pray, for these people. And what came to my realization is that even for my own self as a believer, I don't think that I was fully utilizing that, and I don't think that I was fully realizing how my prayers would reach, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to backtrack to what I would say are personal experiences, where I can think in the past few years I've had very distinct experiences where, for example, I was in a situation where I was feeling a lot of love for a person, and just a very, very pure connection, pure love. And so I contact this person, and they told me, oh, I was just in meditation, and I was sending love to you. And it was almost at the exact moment when they were sending love to me that I felt love for them. More recently, I had asked an individual who, there was one day we were having a conversation about God's love and light, and he's a person who had been delving into the world of fasting. And he said that fasting had been a way for him to feel closer to God in a way that he had never expected, and to feel this enveloping of light and guidance and connection with God. And so what was interesting was that the day we had that conversation, in the evening, I had a very strong wave of what felt to be like divine connection, like similar to what we had talked about in earlier in the day. And it was intense. It was something, to be honest, I hadn't felt in maybe months or like maybe a year. I don't even know. But the way that it overcame me, and the feeling of, wow, like, God, Allah, you've always been here for me. You've always been here for me. And just the level of the intensity and the way that the emotions were coming and the tears were coming, in some way, I thought it was based on the conversation I had with that person. They came to my mind. It wasn't about them, but they came to my mind. So this was some time ago, but only recently, like 3 days ago, I asked them and I said, did you ever pray for me? And he said, yes. I said, well, how many times? I was asking for a reason. I said, well, how many times? And so he said about 3 times. And I said, but do you remember the day when we spoke about specifically fasting and how this was a means and what you felt and, this? I said, was it that day? And he said, yes. So it hit me that the prayers of that person, because he said he had prayed that the light of God, that God's light, that it come to me and it enveloped me in it and that I'm immersed in it. And it was more than that, but that was in summary what was asked. And I felt it. And sometimes I feel like I'm having these experiences because it's not about me, and it's about me having the experience, but then bringing it to a bigger perspective, bringing it to a greater awareness that's beyond myself. And so I was pondering it. I was pondering about this. I was pondering over this that day, a couple days ago. And I was realizing, obviously, I'm not that special. Do you know what I mean? There are many people in this world who feel. There are many people who, I think everyone has the capability to feel. But what's important about this is the person's prayers reached me. That when a person has sent love to me, I have felt it. When a person has sent prayers to me, that I can feel it. So that means that when we send prayers to someone, they can feel it. But who is sending the prayer? It's not us. We are in activation. We are perhaps setting things in motion, but ultimately we are vehicles through which the Creator, through which God, through which Allah is facilitating something for that person. Because Allah is the cause of all causes. The Creator, the Most High, the One, is the means through which all is done. So if I'm doing it, it's only because Allah has willed it to be so, or has allowed that to happen. So what I'm saying is, the reason why I'm saying this is it doesn't matter that I know your name or not. It doesn't matter if I, for example, pray specifically for one person that I know. Inshallah, God willing, it will reach them. If I send peace to them, if I send guidance, if I pray that they are immersed in all that is of goodness and that they feel that divine connection, inshallah, God willing, it will reach them. They will feel that, right? But imagine if I don't know them. If I am praying for every Tigray mother or Palestinian mother or, Uyghur mother who has lost her child, for example, and I'm saying, oh Allah, let that mother's heart be eased. Let her know that you are there for her. Let her know that justice is coming. Let her know that even though in this temporary world it may seem that this is all there is, that there is more to come, and that everything will balance out, and all the perpetrators will be called into account. If I'm praying for that, there is something in me that says, and that feels strongly, based on my own little experiences, that Allah will place that peace and that knowledge and that awareness in the heart of every mother. Because Allah is not limited. Allah is not limited. So Allah knows who every mother is that I'm praying for. You see? Allah knows every soul. So if you set an intention, for example, we're called to pray for the believers, specifically, to pray for other believers. even those who have passed away, even those who are in their grave, we ask that they are in peace, that they are in tranquility, that they are in bliss until the day of judgment, when we are all going to be raised and asked about what we did in this life. And there's mercy in that. It's not just simply, oh, you're going to be asked about what you did and you're just damned. No, there's countless verses of the Quran, countless narrations, meaning statements from Prophet Muhammad that are authentic, because that does matter, that are authentic, that talk about the mercy of God. And all Allah, all the Creator wants is that we believe only in Allah. We only believe in the Creator. So we're not worshiping other idols. We're not surrendering, bowing down, giving our lives, giving ourselves to other deities. Complete surrender to the One. And that when the guidance is there, we do our best to know what is the guidance, to follow the guidance, not only in our internal self, but also what was revealed. And when we make mistakes, that we ask for forgiveness. It's actually pretty simple, but I digress. The point is that there is this mercy that is there for those of us who are doing the best that we can. And we are meant to be reminders to one another. And so even I am, obviously I have a million things in regards to myself that I need to work on to improve myself. There is no question about that. But it's just interesting that, those subtle reminders, that we have medicine inside of ourselves. Like every person has some level of medicine, and we're meant to remind one another. Doesn't matter what your level is. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Ballighu anni walau ayah," relay from me even if it's one verse. He didn't say wait until you have achieved the highest levels of righteousness. He did not say, until there's been this many days where you did not sin. He did not say relay from me when you are a sheikh or a sheikha or a great scholar, or just relay. So whatever there is of goodness, we share it, regardless of where we're at, regardless of who we are. I'm going to tell you, I met a girl when I was in Yemen who had come to Islam. Like she converted, you would say reverted to Islam. And she used to hang out with girls who were not practicing Islam, but identified as Muslim and loved Islam. She told me she knew one girl who used to dance, like pole dance or something, like in a club or a bar or something like that. And I think her and another girl, they used to talk to her about the Day of Judgment, what their parents had taught them. They happened to be from Somali background. And just imagine, here is a person who outwardly their life looked as if they were not practicing. Yet, through the conversation and what their parents had taught them, and them sharing about the Day of Judgment, about the day when we all will be called into account, every leader, every corrupt leader and not corrupt leader, every individual, every oppressor, they're all going to be asked, and we're going to also be asked. That woman planted seeds in her heart that led her over time, with other seeds, of course, to grow this garden of awareness and remembrance, and led her to go all the way to Yemen to study and to go deep into her studies. So the reminder is the reminder. And that's why, again, Prophet Muhammad told us, "Ballighu anni walau ayah," relay from me, share from me, even if it's just one verse. So all I wanted to do is just really jump on just to share this awareness that our prayers reach those whom we pray for. And so sometimes we may feel helpless or hopeless about a situation, like, oh, this is all the way across the world. Like, what am I going to do about it? This is so far away. What am I actually going to do about it? And we feel this feeling of, some people feel despair, some people feel anxiety, some people feel stress, some people just are numb because they're like, well, I can't do anything, so I'm just going to numb myself out. I'm just going to numb myself to it because I can't do anything about it. But that's not true. But that certainty is not going to come from nowhere. It's going to come from when you have certainty about your Lord, when you have certainty about the one who created you, when you have certainty about who brought this world into existence, and you know the names and the attributes of that creator. If you just have this ambiguous idea about God, that God is just, someone who wrestled with man and lost, someone who, has human-like qualities, human-like limitations, human desires, human attributes, and you know what a human is like because you're a human, then why would you feel a need to surrender to that? So I feel that honestly, the reason why a lot of people have an issue, and I'm saying that can include myself, with fully surrendering, is because either we didn't fully know who Allah is, we don't really know who Allah is, who the Creator is, or we've forgotten, or we're just heedless, or we're just distracted. And so with that distraction, it's easy to go into areas of heedlessness, not only about ourselves, but about the ummah, about the nation, about other people as well. We're all going to die. Death is not the worst thing that can happen to you, because we're all going to die. That's 100%. And we don't know when it's happening. The best I can hope for in my own life is that I'm surrounded by people who remind me, because we need reminders, and that I do the best I can to live what I know and what I'm learning. And for the believer, this world is like a prison, because there are constrictions, there are boundaries, there are limitations, there are arenas that we don't delve into because it won't benefit our soul ultimately, and it will distract us from the purpose of our existence and why we're here. And in Jannah, which is the destination that Allah tells us to focus on, that is the place. And I listen to some of these, different scholars. I'm trying to think, Sadhguru and who else? The Sadhgurus and the Oshos, and they're very intelligent and they're very charismatic, and I can listen to them and I can benefit. But they're polar opposite of where I'm at, because they don't believe that there's a God that's going to call us into question. They're not convinced of that. So those who resonate with those messages, that's fine, because not everyone is for everyone. And not every teaching is going to be compatible with every teaching. And so what I say is that we ask the one who brought everything into existence, the one that Nefertiti's husband, Akhenaten, used to say, don't worship the sun, worship the one who made the sun. Ask that one. That's the one I'm saying for you, for every person who may watch this now or later. That's the one that you ask. The one that when you look in the Vedic traditions, they did not start off worshiping many gods. In Hinduism, it was always one. And then later they added on different gods. That's the one I'm saying that we should go to ask for guidance. When we look at the Abrahamic faith, who was Abraham worshiping? One God. Musa, Moses, who was he worshiping? One God. When we look at Isa, alayhi salam, Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him, and when the scribe said to him, tell me the first commandment. And he said, hear, O Israel, know that thy Lord God is one, and love him with all thy heart, all thy mind, all thy soul. Like, love him completely. That's what Jesus said. He didn't say the first commandment is that God is three. He did not say that. If he said that, if that's the truth, I'm going to surrender to it. But sadly, that is not the situation. And Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, the one who inspired the entire world, the landscape of the world, women's rights. You want to talk about women's rights? He brought women's rights. You want to talk about balance and justice and fairness? Like, if you look at the world at that time, how it was, and what stemmed from that, the jewels that came from that, the science, the mathematics, the history, just the laws that came from that, and how the world benefited from a nation that lived divine guidance. You don't realize, if you live in America or wherever, you're benefiting from the fruits. You're benefiting from the fruits of an Islamic civilization. Everything you love. People talk about universal health care. The first people to have universal health care were Muslims. You talk about accredited universities. The first accredited university was made by a Muslim Moroccan woman, African woman. So you talk about, people talk about, I should say, education, and who has education and who doesn't. And, people want to go into Muslim countries and, liberate the women from the hijab and liberate the women from... Do you realize that when Europe went into certain African countries, we had female scholars that they completely negated? That they completely just were like, oh, they're illiterate because they didn't know English. So a lot of what seems to be illiteracy and backwardsness came from Europe. But I digress. The point is, we are going to die. This life can be seemingly long, but it is brief. And for us to ask the one for guidance in every affair, every matter, every step that we take. And not only to pray for ourselves for guidance, but when we see that there are those in other parts of the world who are suffering, that we pray for them, and know that our prayers will reach them.